I found my wife's secret offshore account with $350, $0, only to discover she's been secretly selling our family home and moving the money to her lover. Then she accused me of theft when I tried to stop her. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling, you know. Something just didn't sit right anymore. My wife, Lisa, she's always been a bit of a bitch, hard to please, quick to lie, and honestly, she's got a mouth that could cut glass. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We've been married for about 8 years now, and things had been fine. Not perfect, but I figured that's just marriage, right? You get used to the little annoyances. But then, out of nowhere, I found something that turned my world upside down. It was a random Tuesday evening when I decided to check our bank statements. I'd been noticing small things, little suspicious charges here and there, but I never paid much attention. I was busy with work, coming home late, trying to keep everything afloat. But this time I dug a little deeper. I pulled up the online banking app, and that's when I saw it, an offshore account with over $350, $0 just sitting there. Yeah, you read that right. An offshore account I had no idea about. My stomach dropped. I knew Lisa was secretive, but I didn't think she'd be that bold. I clicked through, trying to find some explanation. The account was in her name, but the transactions were strange. Large transfers, mostly to some account in the Bahamas and a few in the islands. It was clear she'd been hiding money, and not just a little. This was a serious chunk of our savings. I couldn't believe it. I kept asking myself, why? Why would she do this? What was she hiding? Then I remembered the recent discussions we'd had about money. Lisa had been unusually defensive about finances lately, snapping at me when I brought up savings or expenses. She accused me of being too controlling, say I didn't trust her. But this was different. I wasn't just paranoid. I had proof. And that's when I started to suspect that she wasn't just hiding money, she was hiding something much bigger. I decided I needed to know more. I started digging deeper, looking for any sign of her secret life. That's when I found it: hidden emails, encrypted messages on her phone, strange calls at odd hours. The more I uncovered, the more I realized she was selling our house bit by bit. I found receipts for property agents, fake listings, even a notarized document transferring ownership to someone named, who I later learned was her lover. My wife had been secretly dumping our family home, one of our biggest investments, and funneling the money straight to him. The shock hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt sick. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built? I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I'd trusted her. I'd thought we were solid. But she'd been lying right under my nose, plotting her escape with her lover. And the worst part: when I confronted her, she lied through her teeth, everything, and accused me of being paranoid, controlling, and even of stealing from her. That was the moment I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to figure out my next move, but I was lost in a spiral of betrayal and anger. After I found out about the offshore account and her secret sale of the house, I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I couldn't breathe properly. My mind was racing with questions. How long had she been doing this? How many lies had I believed? The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever trust her again. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at my phone, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I kept thinking about the money, how much she had hidden, how she'd been planning this for who knows how long. That night I confronted her. I called her into the living room and just laid everything out, showed her the bank statements, the emails, the transfer receipts. Her face twisted into this nasty smirk, like she thought she could play me. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid and jealous, and that I didn't understand how business worked. She said she was just trying to build a future, that I was too controlling, and that she deserved to have some independence. She even threw in the classic line, "You're just insecure, that's all." But I wasn't buying it. I'd seen the evidence. I knew she was lying, and I knew she'd been sneaking around behind my back. Her reaction made me angrier. She had this bitchy attitude about it all, acting like I was the problem. The way she shrugged and said it was nothing, like I should just accept that she was selling our house, stealing from us, and secretly screwing her lover. I couldn't believe her audacity. I was furious, but I also felt this deep sadness, like I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. I asked her directly what was her plan. Was she planning to leave me? And she just chuckled and said, "Don't be so dramatic. I'm not leaving. I'm just making some moves. You wouldn't understand." That's when I finally snapped. I told her I wanted the truth, everything. Why was she selling the house? What was her plan? Her response was to deny everything, play innocent, and accuse me of being the one sneaking around. That's when she threw the biggest lie yet, that I'd been stealing money from her. I'd never stolen a penny in my life, but she spun it like I was the bad guy. I was so furious I almost lost it. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she turn this around on me? That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. My mind kept circling back to the money, her secret accounts, the house she was selling without telling me, the man she was cheating with. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and just plain stupid for not noticing sooner. How could I have missed all the signs? How could I have been so blind? I kept asking myself if I even knew the woman I'd married. The person I thought I loved was gone, replaced by someone willing to betray everything we had built just for her own selfish reasons. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to come up with a plan. I couldn't let her get away with stealing our home, hiding money, and cheating on me. I started thinking about what to do next. Should I confront her again? Should I involve a lawyer, or just walk away? I was so angry, so hurt, I didn't even know was right anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. My world was crumbling, and I was left standing there, feeling like a fool. The next few days were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug look she always gets when she's lying or hiding something. I kept replaying the confrontation, trying to figure out what I missed, what I could have done differently. But deep down, I knew the truth. Lisa had been lying to me for years. All those little things, the secretive phone calls, her defensive attitude about money, the way she avoided my eyes, were clues I ignored or dismissed. I started to piece things together. The offshore account wasn't just a stash of cash. It was part of her plan to run away, to start a new life with her lover. I found out she'd been talking to him behind my back for months, maybe longer. They had secret meetings, exchanged dozens of texts, and she'd even taken trips to see him without telling me. Every discovery just made me angrier, more betrayed. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I had trusted her with everything, my money, my home, my life, and she had been planning her escape all along. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't let her finish selling the house or transfer more money. I contacted a lawyer, explained everything. We filed a temporary restraining order to freeze her accounts and prevent any more transactions. I also hired a private investigator to dig into her dealings and to find out exactly who was. Turns out was just a pawn, her lover's name, her secret partner in crime. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even years, and I was just the last to find out. The day I confronted her again, I told her I knew everything. I showed her the legal papers, the evidence I'd gathered. Her reaction was priceless. She went from smug to panicked in a second. She everything at first, then started to spin wild stories about how I was paranoid, how I was trying to control her, how she was just trying to make a better life. She claimed I was a terrible husband, that I didn't support her, and that I was just jealous, but I wasn't buying her lies anymore. I could see right through her. I told her I'd had enough of her bullshit, that I was done being played for a fool. That confrontation was the turning point. I realized I couldn't fix this, not with her. She was too far gone, too committed to her scheme. I decided I'd have to take legal action, fight for my rights, and protect what was left of my life. I was angry, yes, but also hurt, deeply hurt. I never thought she'd betray me like this, especially not for some guy she barely knew. It felt like my entire world was collapsing and I didn't know how to put it back together. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. Not without a fight. Over the next few weeks, things moved fast and I felt like I was living in some kind of nightmare. The lawyer got involved, and we filed for an injunction to freeze all her accounts, including that offshore stash she'd been hiding. I also started to gather evidence of her selling the house, receipts, emails, even recordings of her discussing the sale with the estate agent. It was a gut-wrenching process, knowing that she had been secretly planning to walk away from everything we built. I never thought I'd see the woman I married turn into this con artist. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, pretending to be the innocent victim, accusing me of everything from theft to emotional instability. She would cry, throw tantrums, and call me paranoid or abusive. I couldn't believe how she was spinning her lies. She told everyone I was crazy, that I was trying to control her, that I was the one stealing money. It was infuriating. I felt betrayed not just by her actions, but by the fact she was trying to turn everyone against me. I knew her well enough now to see she was playing the victim perfectly, but I refused to fall for it. One day, I caught her in a lie. She claimed she had no idea about the offshore account, that it was just a mistake, or that someone else must have set it up in her name without her knowledge. That was the moment I snapped. I pulled out the bank statements, the email trails, the transaction receipts. Her face went pale. That's when she finally broke down and admitted she'd been selling the house and funneling money too. She started crying, begging me to forgive her, saying it was just a mistake, that she loved me and didn't want to lose everything. But I was done being a sucker. I told her she had no right to lie to me, to betray me like that. I told her I was filing for divorce and I was going to take everything she tried to hide. I couldn't believe I was even saying those words, but I knew I had to protect myself. The betrayal was too deep, and I couldn't stay married to someone who'd lie, cheat, and steal from me. I felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief that I finally knew the truth, heartbreak because I realized I was losing my marriage, my life, everything I'd thought was real. As I prepared for the divorce, I also started to think about the bigger picture. The money she'd hidden, the house she was selling, the fact that she was willing to cheat and steal just to run away. It made me question everything I'd believed about her. Was she ever truly the woman I thought I married? Or was she always just pretending, hiding her real self behind that bitchy, manipulative veneer? I couldn't help but wonder if I'd been blind all along, or if I just chose to ignore the signs because I loved her. Now I saw clearly. She was a liar, a thief, and a cheat, and I was just the fool who trusted her. In the end, I decided I'd fight to keep what was mine and move on. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I deserved better. I learned that sometimes the person you love the most can turn out to be the biggest betrayal. And when that happens, you have to be willing to fight for your money, your dignity, and your sanity. I'm still healing from this mess, but I've learned one thing for sure. Never ignore the warning signs, and never let someone steal your life without a fight. The process of finalizing everything was a whirlwind. I had to deal with lawyers, courts, and a mountain of paperwork. Every day felt like I was fighting to keep my sanity. Lisa, of course, was doing her best to spin everything in her favor. She claimed she was the victim, that I was trying to control her, that she only did what she did because I was abusive or overbearing. She even went as far as accusing me of stealing from her, another lie, but one she threw out just to muddy the waters. It was honestly exhausting trying to counter her lies while sorting out the legal mess she'd created. I hired a private investigator to confirm everything. His reports showed her meeting in secret, transferring the money, and even trying to hide her tracks by using encrypted messages. That's when I realized how deep her deception went. She'd been planning to leave me for months, maybe longer. The house sale was just the final step in her escape plan. Knowing that made me feel sick, like I'd been played for a fool all these years. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to cut all ties and start over, no matter how painful it was. The day I got the divorce papers, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Part of me still loved her, or at least wanted to believe in the woman I'd married. But I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I signed the papers, knowing I was finally free from her lies. The house was sold, the money frozen, and I was left with the remains of what once felt like a solid life. I looked around our home, furniture, pictures, memories, and wondered how it all went so wrong so fast. In the aftermath, I've been trying to rebuild. I've started therapy to deal with the anger and betrayal. I've also been cautious about trusting anyone again. It's hard to believe that someone you loved and trusted could turn into a thief and a liar. But I've learned a lot from this experience. I learned to pay attention to the little signs, those subtle changes in behavior, the secretive phone calls, the evasiveness about money. I learned that sometimes the person you think you know best is just wearing a mask. And I learned that you have to fight for yourself, no matter how much it hurts. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. I wish I hadn't ignored those little red flags. But I also know I can't change the past. All I can do now is move forward, smarter and more cautious. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Trust is earned, not given blindly. And if someone starts hiding money, lying about their whereabouts, or acting suspiciously, don't dismiss it. Because sometimes the biggest betrayals come from the people you love the most. And when they do, you have to be ready to stand your ground and fight for your life, your money, and your dignity. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed me. I used to think love and trust were enough to keep a marriage strong, but I've learned the hard way that they're just the starting points. You have to watch for the signs, protect yourself, and never let someone's charm blind you to their true intentions. Lisa's betrayal taught me that even the people closest to you can harbor secrets so dark they threaten to destroy your entire life. I've come to understand that money isn't just paper. It's a symbol of security, trust, and the life you build with someone. When that trust is broken, everything else falls apart. Her secret offshore account, the sale of our home, those acts weren't just about greed or lust. They were about erasing me, rewriting her story without me in it. It's a painful lesson, but one I needed to learn. Moving forward, I'm focused on rebuilding my life. I've started saving again, slowly but surely. I've also made a vow to myself that I'll never ignore the warning signs again. I don't want to be like this ever again. I also want to warn others. Trust is a fragile thing, and it can be shattered in a second if you're not careful. Keep your eyes open, pay attention to the small things, and never dismiss your gut feelings. Most importantly, I've learned that a person's true character reveals itself in how they handle their secrets and betrayals. Lisa's lies, her manipulations, they showed me who she really was. I won't let her define my future. I've decided to move on, to focus on healing and rebuilding what I've lost. It's not easy, and I'll probably carry scars from this forever, but I know I'll come out stronger. So, to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags. And if someone is hiding money, lying, or acting suspiciously, don't wait until it's too late to act. Protect yourself, stand your ground, and never forget that your worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, things no amount of money or lies can replace. And in the end, surviving this kind of heartbreak is about finding your strength again and learning to trust yourself first.